I know by God's grace I did exactly what the Constitution of the United States required of me that day. I kept my oath.
President Trump was wrong to give a white nationalist, an anti-Semite, and a Holocaust denier a seat at the table. And I think he should apologize for it.
First time I heard speculation that as vice president, I'd have the authority to overturn the election by returning or rejecting votes. I frankly dismissed it out of hand. Look, the founders of this country had just won a war of independence against a king. And I was confident as a student of American history that those founders would have never vested the vice president or anyone else with unilateral authority to decide what electoral college votes to count and which not to count. I was clear on that throughout. I was clear with President Trump throughout, all the way up to the morning of January 6th. But let's be clear on this point. It wasn't just that they asked for a pause. The president specifically asked me, and his gaggle of crackpot lawyers asked me to literally reject votes.
When he first came out to run for president, he was doing the same thing that almost everybody else in the race was doing, which is patty cakes. Oh, Donald Trump is wonderful and great. We happen to have a slight disagreement at the end where he wanted to do a coup and I didn't. Okay, he wouldn't use those words, right? But he would refer to it as something that was relatively small and was generally supportive of Trump, even though we know for a fact that when he was told that Trump was told that Pence might be murdered by his Trump supporters, Trump said that he didn't mind. Meadows came into the room and they said, you got to tell the president that they're threatening to murder his vice president. And Meadows said, yeah, I already did. And he says he doesn't mind and that Pence had it coming. So deserved it. That's the words that Meadows used according to the witness. So now, Pence was still being soft to him because he had some BS political strategy about how he's going to get the MAGA guys to vote for him by being nice to Trump.
Come
but
on.
It's obvious now that the indictment has happened, that Pence has changed his strategy and is now being more honest about it. He wasn't dishonest, to be fair to Pence.
They wanted to hang you, bro. Like, what kind of strategy is that? Like, how stupid can you be?
And he should denounce those individuals and their hateful rhetoric without qualification. With that being said, as I point out in the book as well, I don't believe Donald Trump is an anti-Semite. I don't believe he's a racist or a bigot. I would not have been his vice president if he was. And people often forget the president's daughter converted to Judaism.
Yep.
His son-in-law is a devout Jew. His grandchildren are Jewish.
Yeah, Donald Trump can't be anti-Semitic. Some of his best children are Jewish. So, like, he did well. He did well up until he's like, at the same time, I mean, as I mentioned in my book, I'm gonna provide cover for Trump, even though he's very clearly and obviously a racist and an anti-Semite. Like, what?
The Constitution of the United States in Article 2 says the job of the vice president is to serve as the presiding officer of a joint session where you open and count the votes. Don't take my word for it, go read the Constitution. Not really, I say this with great affection and respect. The Constitution is very clear. My job was to oversee a session of Congress where objections could be heard, and I made sure that objections would be recognized. So we would hear whatever evidence or whether debate there was. But the Constitution says you open and count the votes, no more, no less. The Constitution affords no authority for the vice president or anyone else to reject votes or return votes to the states. I'm sorry, ma'am, but that's actually what the Constitution says. No vice president in American history ever asserted the authority that you have been convinced that I had. But I want to tell you, with all due respect, I said before, I said when I announced President Trump was wrong about my authority that day, and he's still wrong.
So I thought he did a great job with it. So our job's to be honest. So that I'm not a fan of Mike Pence, and I wouldn't vote for him if my life depended on it. But he is absolutely right on those facts. And every day I grow more comfortable saying that his actions on January 6th were heroic.